Right now in the nutrition world, there's nothing hotter and more talked about, but also more misunderstood than gut health. My name is Dr. Mark Morris, and today I'm going to be teaching you the Nutrition Coach's Guide to Gut Health. If you're a nutrition coach, then delivering better, life-changing results for your clients might come down to what's going on in their gut, so let's dive in. I'm sure you've noticed it. You can't scroll 20 seconds on social media without coming across something gut health related. There's a reason why gut health is so popular in the nutrition world. The gut or gastrointestinal tract is a large group of organs, starting at your mouth and extending all the way to your anus, responsible for digesting food, absorbing nutrients, and getting rid of all the waste. Welcome to the video, Mr. Cool Anatomy Prop Guy. For anyone with an interest in nutrition, this is a very important part of the body to study. But it gets even cooler. The gut is home to over 100 trillion bacteria, both good and bad, living inside the gastrointestinal system. You're actually made up of more bacteria than you are human. Collectively, these bacteria are called the gut microbiota, and they have a profound impact on health, disease, and many of the goals our clients want to achieve, like weight balance, improved energy, and immunity. And although this area of research is relatively new, there seems to be a strong link between what's going on in your gut and many common diseases. Now, some nutrition coaches do have a bad habit of getting a little bit ahead of the research, suggesting things that don't have a ton of evidence or solving problems that don't really exist. You may not know this, but I actually did some of my PhD work in the area of nutritional biomarkers and chronic intestinal disease. I studied under some of the smartest gut doctors in the country, treating some of the sickest patients, and you may be surprised to know that none of them suggested many of the things you see nutrition coaches suggesting on TikTok. Now, these doctors definitely weren't out of touch. There just isn't tons of evidence to back up some of the claims these coaches are making. But with that being said, gut health is a promising area of study with a growing body of evidence that clearly shows the impact that our gut has on our overall health. So today we're going to go over that. But before we start, we need to bring it back by going over the human gastrointestinal system. If we want to know where things can go wrong with our gut health, we first need to understand how our gastrointestinal or GI tract works. Our digestive system contains many different components that work together to break down food, absorb nutrients, and get rid of waste. Let's go through the journey of how food travels through our digestive system from when it enters our mouth all the way to when it gets excreted. Now, under normal conditions, digestion does take an extended period of time, anywhere between 24 to 72 hours to complete the process. To start this process, we begin at the mouth, where food enters and becomes physically broken down through chewing. Enzymes in our mouths also chemically break down complex sugar units into simple sugar units. Next, it travels down the esophagus and enters the stomach. The stomach functions to both physically and chemically break down the food. The stomach walls actually have strong muscles that churn and break down the food, along with acid that breaks down the food components. The next step for the partially digested food is to enter the small intestine. The small intestine is a powerhouse for digestion and absorption. It contains many enzymes to further break down the food. To help absorb the food, the small intestine is lined with small finger-like projections called villi and microvilli. These components help to increase the surface area available for nutrient absorption, making the small intestine the major site for enzymatic digestion and nutrient absorption. Most vitamins, minerals, amino acids, lipids, as well as sugars are absorbed here. Food components not absorbed in the small intestine will make their way to the large intestine, also known as your colon. To put timing into perspective, undigested food doesn't get to the colon until 6 to 8 hours after eating. Here's where things get really cool for gut health. Traditionally, we thought of the large intestine as just a pathway for waste. This is where additional water was absorbed and feces was formed for excretion. But research has revealed so much more about our large intestine, specifically the bacteria that lives there. For example, the bacteria in our guts actually ferment fiber to short-chain fatty acids that our colon cells use for energy. Going back to my PhD work for a second, I actually did a lot of analysis on short-chain fatty acids in IBD patients. I won't bore you with all of the details, but one thing I do remember is that the short-chain fatty acids that came in those vials actually smelled a lot like wet golden retriever. There's actually been some amino acid supplements that contain them that smell the same. Anyways, our intestines are home to trillions of bacteria that make up what we call the gut microbiome. There is increasing evidence that show that our gut microbiota influences our health way beyond our guts to things like immunity and even the risk of chronic disease. So obviously gut health is important, but what do we really know about it? Let's start by actually defining a healthy or unhealthy gut. Well, considering the role and function of the GI tract, our guts must be able to normally break down and absorb nutrients without causing excess bloating or gas. When functioning properly, we should be producing anywhere between 3 bowel movements per day to 3 bowel movements per week. Obviously, this is a wide range, but most healthy guts follow a pattern. And finally, a healthy gut has a balanced and diverse microbiota. When this is out of whack, our guts can experience dysbiosis, which is an imbalance in the types of bacteria in the gut. Either you have less beneficial or good bacteria, too much harmful or bad bacteria, or just a lack of overall diversity. When this happens, you're more likely to experience chronic GI symptoms like gas, bloating, constipation, and diarrhea. Creating the environment for a healthy gut to thrive means avoiding dysbiosis. As you can see, what influences a healthy gut comes down to the bacteria that live there. So we need to understand what influences these bacteria, but what matters most? Research has shown that a diet higher in fiber compared to low fiber and higher fat fat and higher sugar, influences the bacteria profile of the gut. Other factors such as prescription antibiotics and pre and probiotics, which we'll also detail later in this video, have an effect. What we're going to do next is learn what the science says about what can be done to influence our gut health. A few notes before we start though. As much as there's tons of exciting research going on in this field, we need to remain mindful that the evidence is actually quite limited, which makes sense given how new it is. And although the health of our gut might have implications on our hormones, body weight, and even mental health, it's important to be skeptical of claims that seem to be too good to be true. But since nutrition coaches work with so many people that want body composition changes, what does the science say about gut health and body weight? There is emerging research on the relationship between obesity and the gut microbiome. And although preliminary, there seems to be a difference in the bacterial profile of obese and normal weight individuals. And those that are overweight have an increased ability to derive energy than those who are lean. As well, research from animal studies shows a disruption or change in the gut microbiota that may be linked to obesity. There seems to be a link here, but the research is very preliminary. Now, I do want to contrast what we consider an unhealthy gut with actual diseases of the GI tract. When the gut becomes unhealthy, it can experience chronic symptoms like abdominal cramping, gas, diarrhea, constipation, and sometimes pain. These are a lot of the same symptoms that someone with irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS, will experience chronically. But there's a big difference between these two situations and inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD, which is described as chronic inflammation or sores in the digestive tract. And although people with IBD can experience a lot of the same symptoms, they have visual inflammation that can be seen through endoscopy or colonoscopy, which can also cause blood in the stool and serious abdominal pain. The point I'm trying to make here is these are different things. You may remember my nutrition case study with my client Arlene. She has Crohn's disease and an ileostomy. The management of this type of situation, which is a chronic disease, should be overseen by a medical professional. Now, we all have experienced gas and some bloating to some extent. For the most part, these are indications of normal processes during digestion, and certain foods are known to increase gas in some people. These are pretty individual without any hard guidelines on what can cause it from person to person. Even healthy food like broccoli, cauliflower, or beans contain carbohydrates that are digested in the bacteria in our guts that can cause bloating and gas. The same foods that improve gut health in some people cause problems in others. But when symptoms of an unhealthy gut persist for too long, here's what the evidence suggests can help manage it. Let's go through this in 3 categories: strong evidence, neutral evidence, and weak evidence. Let's start with the strong evidence. We can't discuss gut health without talking about dietary fiber. Fiber is vital for our overall health, but it also plays an essential role in the gut. Our digestive system does not break down dietary fiber. Instead, it is metabolized by our gut bacteria. There is strong evidence to suggest that dietary fiber has a strong impact on the diversity of our gut microbiota. Now, most people should be consuming 14 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories of food per day. Varying sources between soluble fiber, which is good for lowering cholesterol and blood sugar, and insoluble fiber, which adds bulk to bowel movements. Before someone tries anything else to improve their gut health, they need to make sure they're eating enough fiber. Prioritizing fiber-containing foods like whole grains, fruits, vegetables, beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds make it easy to reach optimal fiber levels. Hydration also plays an important role in managing our gut health. Staying hydrated may prevent constipation, so a good target to shoot for is 3.7 liters of fluid for male clients and 2.7 liters for female clients. Additionally, a recent study found that hydration was actually linked to increased biodiversity in the gut, although it also indicated that the source of water matters. A sometimes forgotten and perhaps understated aspect of GI health is stress management. There is a strong connection between our brain and our digestive system. This connection is often referred to as the brain-gut axis. Have you ever noticed that nervous feeling in your stomach? That is due to the work of the nerve cells that line your GI tract. Getting too stressed, especially for long periods of time, can impact digestion, causing gas in the short term, but even chronic, more severe issues in the long term. Fiber, hydration, and stress are the first line of defense against poor gut health. Next, we have strategies with neutral evidence. Now, keep in mind, we may learn more about these, and they may end up playing an even more important role in gut health, but for now, they are nice to try instead of vital. You may have heard of the terms pre and probiotics when it comes to gut health. Probiotics are live bacteria that help colonize the gut, while prebiotics are the food these bacteria need to thrive. Foods that contain probiotics may be helpful to improve gut health. Fermented foods like yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir help colonize the gut with good bacteria. Now, the evidence on their effectiveness is mixed though. It does seem that probiotics can reduce specific symptoms in diseases like IBD or IBS. However, there's weak evidence to show their effectiveness in weight loss or mental health. For now, consuming fermented foods that contribute to a healthy diet makes sense, but I wouldn't go out of my way to consume a probiotic supplement. There's just not enough strong evidence to suggest their use in healthy people at this point. For prebiotics, I wouldn't go out of my way to suggest any specific prebiotic foods, but eating more fiber within fiber requirements is always smart. Although pre and probiotics might not be the difference maker for gut health, they are usually part of healthy food or safe for people to take. So if someone wants to take them, that is not the hill I'm going to die on. With that being said, what has limited evidence or is mostly BS for gut health? There is a lot of misinformation when it comes to food sensitivity tests and gut health, as well as overall health. Most of these tests are at-home kits. They use markers from blood tests and claim to provide some sort of food you should avoid. It's important to know the difference between a food allergy, an intolerance, and a sensitivity. For instance, food allergies happen when we consume food and have an immune reaction to it. Then we get symptoms like shortness of breath or a rash. Food intolerances happen when our bodies have a hard time breaking down a specific food because we lack an enzyme. Lactose intolerance would be a good example of this. While food sensitivity is not really a medical diagnosis and is sometimes an umbrella term for an intolerance or an allergy, but there is limited evidence behind these food sensitivity tests. For example, food allergy tests use immunoglobulin E, which detects a proper immune response to a food. In comparison, food sensitivity tests look for immunoglobulin G, which simply shows if the individual has had past exposure to that food item. This causes more fear than anything else. And quite relevant to this topic, you may have seen at-home testing kits that claim to be able to sequence the bacterial genome in your gut microbiota through fecal samples. Then you can tailor your nutrition and diet to your unique gut microbiota. There's just not enough evidence for this yet. And although it might be neat to have this information, we just can't tailor our nutrition or give suggestions based on this yet. That's it, folks. Gut health is a very hot topic and for a very good reason. We're learning more about it all the time and it has a huge impact on our overall health. I hope you found this information and the strategies provided useful for you and your clients. As great as all those tips are, if you're really serious about starting a nutrition coaching business, the next thing I'll have you do is check out this video I've linked up right here. Now that you know how to manage gut health, learn how to get great results for elite clients. So make sure to check it out and I'll see you in the next video.